the live chat is open, so I'll expect people to. That's what I always do,
Um,
Nyron, when I or
I
Nick.
won't be able to take live chat, I don't think.
No, the live chat is for me, but you can. Oh no, no,
Okay.
you don't have any other screen. So, but when there are questions in the live chat, I'll let you know. Um,
Hmm.
hold on. That can hear us or see us. Let us know in the live chat, please. Yes, there's one individual that responded. Yes, good morning to you too. I'm here with Nyron. He's a fellow believer, and we're discussing an important topic today. Oh, okay. Rochelle, this is a Google Hangout stream, but Google canceled the option that you can stream to YouTube directly. So I'm doing it via a program. That's why you can see me very tiny in the in the right below, and you see a profile picture of Nyron in the big. So that's what you see now, but it's not. That's not the important thing. The important thing is that you hear the message we're about to bring. So hold on. Is there anyone else here? Oh, it's here. Please let us know in the live chat. We'll wait for two more, no, for 3 more minutes, and then we'll begin with the subject. Hold on. Greetings. Can we make this a bit bigger? Good. Just 2 more minutes, and then we'll begin. Okay, see people are coming in. That's good. I always do this in my live streams, but you're right aware of that, Naira.
Yep.
We are almost 4 minutes live. At 5 minutes, we'll begin. So for the rest that comes in, that they won't miss much. So we'll just wait. There's several people here already. Again, for those that joined, please let us know in the live chat. If you've already shown yourself in the live chat, that's fine. For those new that come in, let me know in the live chat that you're here. Okay, just 3 seconds more, and yes, we're going to begin. Welcome everyone to this live stream, or better said, dual live stream, because it's me and Nyron, a fellow believer, also experienced in walking by faith, and we'll discuss a phenomenon that has been going on YouTube. But it's not only YouTube, but YouTube is the main social media platform where it takes place, and that is that pagans are showing off their rituals openly. Now, the hardcore rituals, of course, YouTube won't permit them to show them. Those are rituals involving blood sacrifice, child rape, and all of that. But they're out here showing their stuff into our face. And we as believers, Christ-centered, are going to discuss this. Okay. I think it's best, Nairon, for you to give an introduction about yourself so that people know who you are. You can also talk about your own YouTube platform. So I'm giving you the word for now.
Ari Dottich's channel. Some of you may know about my channel. I'm from the UK, and as Ari Dottich said, I'm experienced walking by faith, and I'll be assisting in this message. I have some knowledge of how the entertainment industry works and people who are chasing fame, and a lot of the alternative media talks about this stuff, and they provide a platform for people to feel good about the fact that they're not famous, but they don't tell you the reality of how wealth really is given in a spiritual context.
Nairon, I'm
So
near
there's
here.
a lot of rituals behind it, yeah. Yeah.
One moment. Can everyone hear Nairon? Let me know in the live chat. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just want people to be sure that people can hear you and receive it well. Those that are listening, can you hear Nairon? Did you hear what he just said? Let me know. Hold on. Okay, Nairon, continue.
Okay. Money, because money is something that people value in this world. Virtually everything in the world, money. And sometimes, even when you're a child, you don't even think about it. That the teachers in school, or the police on the streets, or even the relationships when you're buying bread and milk in the shop, it's all to do with money. That's why people say money makes the world go round. But most people, even people who are deep thinkers, don't even think, where does money come from? What is it? It's really just a spiritual concept. And because it's a spiritual concept, those who are more aware of spiritual things can access it in a spiritual way. And the pagans don't want believers to be as aware of these things. So, they want those who are struggling to be drawn into these, and, to get money in a toxic way, which will lead to them being trapped and potentially sacrificed, because that's what happens in the higher levels of the entertainment industry. And that also includes being replaced with clones and various things that when you sell, that's what selling your soul is, by the way. Selling your soul is about giving up your natural human rights, and which is the opposite of why people want money, because people want money so that they can be treated better. But we're going to talk about this stuff from a Christ-centered perspective, so that people who believe in Christ can have the right confidence and realize that it's not just about staying alive and apologizing for your existence until Christ returns. So we can actually grow in faith and in authority on the earth.
Indeed. Because we are designed for the earth, as is mentioned in Scripture. So it's logical for believers to be prosperous when it comes to finances also. And it's just as near here, he goes by the name near here, so come use that for now. So just near here just told you that money is a spiritual concept, but people don't realize how spiritual it is. That's why most people rely on their own physical strength to beg someone to give them money. Because that is what happens in the world. When you go to your job every day, you're offering your physical and mental strength with the hope that you get a compensation. Now, when it happens that you do provide the work, someone does not give you the compensation, they can be prosecuted by law. So that is what secures the employee that they get their compensation. So that is what happens with people in daily life. They have physical needs, also they have this deep-rooted spirit needs to connect to other people, and because they need material resources, also to get access to provisions, that's why they need that thing called money, which is, or as it currency. And who makes the currency? The central banks do. The governments arrange it. So the governments decide who has a lot of the currency and who doesn't. But they tell the population you need to work to earn it, even though they're the ones providing it. So they want you to think that there's a link between you donating your physical and mental strength and you getting that compensation. In fact, you can use that compensation to do things in daily life. And this is the short-sighted thinking of worldly people that keeps them trapped. That's why they begin to believe that currency, because currency in action is money. Let me define it first. Currency are the coins and piece of paper we use for transactions. Money is currency in action. For example, you can have Japanese currency with you, Japanese yen, but if you're in Britain, it's just currency but not money. But if you're in Britain and use British pounds, it's both currency and money because you can use it in practice. So money is a practical use of currency in the right context. So to love money, you must love the context that's defined by the government and by the banking world. So worldly people are short-sighted. They think, okay, if you get currency, you can do stuff. So how do we get more currency? And if we can't do it the way it's expected of us, donating our physical strength, then we need to take it away either from someone else, or we can take it, or we're going to make counterfeits, and then they end up in jail because they all operate from their own strength. But pagans realize, hold on a minute, we are spirit beings as human beings, so money is just a social construct. It only has power because we energize it spiritually. So pagans go and think, you know what? Let me use the energy fields around to redirect cash flows in my favor. So I don't have to donate my physical and mental strength from 9 to 5 and be exhausted at the end of the week while a few devil worshippers benefit at my expense. So it's important to understand that money and currency are two different things. People confuse them, but I've just explained what they are, and realize that we as believers, we need to approach it from a spirit point of view, because we are spirit beings. So Nairon, just go into the permission to existing, because you can explain it well.
The world that we live in basically does not acknowledge your right to breathe. Okay, so if your heart is beating, you have to basically answer to some kind of authority about that. So you may be allowed to take narcissistic supply, saying, okay, look at that bum over there who's not doing anything with their life, and everyone feels good about themselves. That's a form of narcissistic supply. Or your existence is somehow causing someone to get paid. So some people might even say, okay, somebody might even be secretly donating something on your behalf, and that's why you're allowed to exist. And as soon as the money, everybody turns on you. So there's a reason for it. But if you're and that's because obviously humans are in a fallen state, and humans are very needy, but they don't want to depend on the original source. They don't walk by faith and receive from Christ. So they need to make sure that everything is a battery. Just like the Matrix mentions, like when Neo from the Matrix, he was in denial when Morpheus showed him that his life is a battery, and every human life is just a battery to plug into a system until you are drained and until you die. And in the same way, but again, when you face reality, then you can be more effective in combating it, and not by having an aversive attachment to it, but by responding, in a way that is productive to educate people, but also to have your success in a holy manner, in line with Christ.
And that's why we make live streams like this one over here to inform and educate fellow believers. One question to the viewers. Did everyone understand what Myron just explained? Let me know in the live chat. Near here, I mean. Okay. Let me know, believers. Did you get what Myron just explained? Good. People explained it. Good. One individual asked, the federal system is actually the government? Well, actually, no. It's a cult. It's a Roman Catholic cult, but we can talk more about the Roman Catholic cult, but you know what? Let's just do that. As you all who have been following my channel for a while understand, we live in this Greek system that's a continuation of the Roman Empire, and the Catholic Masonic system, or the Catholic Church, is that same system with a Christian mosque. And near here, or Niron, let's call him near here, who has just spoken to you, he is a musician also.
You can call me Niron if it's easier. Call me Niron. Yeah.
What?
You can call me Niron if it's easier. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just call you Niron then. Okay. Niron here is also active in not the music industry, but he's a musician. So he produces music, and he also encountered some disturbing discoveries about what's going on there, some which I've already explained. But before we continue about the practicality of dealing with finances in here and now, I want to give the next few minutes or 10 or maybe minutes or maybe longer to Niron to explain how this relates to the music industry, because it really relates to all industries in the same way, but the music industry is the most obvious one. So Niron, please take the platform, and you can talk about the Catholic system also, because people on my channel, they are introduced to it already.
Okay. Well, firstly, when it comes to who runs the world, because when it comes to truth seekers, Jews run the world, and they are the Jesuits have been running as the main spiritual agents for Satan and Apollo. The Jesuits have been running the system. And all financial institutions and all artistic collectives run on the Jesuit agenda. So the psychology behind money and how people relate to money comes from Jesuit philosophies and works with psychology. And the Jesuits are masters of human psychology as well. And they get a lot of their knowledge from demons, so that they can manipulate and prey upon the low self-esteem of humans. So it's all to do with identity issues. So if you're not a man, you're not a man unless you're doing certain things. So you're not focusing on your purpose in life, you're focusing on trying to be a man in accordance with Satan's criteria. And so when it comes to the music industry or the film industry, because those things are already connected, because also the pornography industry is directly connected, because in Hollywood, you basically have the biggest porn studios, the biggest film studios, and the biggest music studios all in one place. And like most of the pornography in the world also comes from Los Angeles and Hollywood. So all of that stuff is connected. And pornography is also where the sex rituals are actually exposed to the world as a form of entertainment. And they're basically revealing their rituals. And part of their rituals is sex rituals and murder rituals and various other things, so spiritual chants and various things. And that's the whole purpose of the entertainment industry anyway. It's to basically hide the truth in plain sight, because it's not really possible to just keep lying and hiding things. Like, there's a saying, in the film Righteous Kill, for example, there were two cops that are hunting a serial killer, and they said eventually getting away with it is not enough. Like, they have to show what they are. And I even spoke to some other guy. This guy's he knows billionaires and stuff. He mentioned that they're too crazy to hide what they are. They have to show it. And so, but basically, yeah, the world that we live in, yeah, it's run by people who also need to show what they are, psychologically speaking, because there's a lot of ego involved in evil. But also, if they don't show what they are, then they're also encouraging Christ to intervene, because they need to blackmail the people by saying, look, we're showing them the truth, but they're still ignoring it. So basically, they deserve to be our slaves. And then Christ can say, and even God's people can say, well, yeah, you have a point, because they're choosing not to see the truth. So it kind of increases the blackmail and their right to rule the population. Whereas if you completely fool the population, then there basically is no excuse, because there's no option for people to say, no, I don't want that.
Correct?
So with the music industry, you can ask me more specific questions about what goes on there. But yeah, with the music industry, it's just an extension of the Jesuit agenda to get people in line with, people know about the sodomite agenda, people know about the transgender agenda, and the normalization of pharmakeia. They do a Hegelian dialectic as well when it comes to the cops and robbers and stuff like that. Hip hop promotes drugs and stuff like that. Films promote drugs, but they also show you the police going after them. So they want you to think either it's cool to be a criminal or it's cool to be a crime fighter, who's scapegoating the rejected. So, but they're not showing you the context of these things. So again, entertainment and the banking system, it's all about the scapegoating rituals and basically just providing an excuse to continue the system, but never addressing the real point of who Christ is and the solution to the sin problem. Call it crooks in action. And those are just extensions of the Jesuit complex. And again, it's all to create a matrix. And just like you've got fraud companies for drugs and stuff like that, and money laundering, it's just a matter of just creating loads of illusions. So yeah, if you've had any more specific questions, you can ask. But
Yes. Just like Naron explained, because Naron, you as a musician, you did not, as they called in the world, break through in the music industry, because when you examine it carefully, there's nothing to break through, because in this case, let's use the music industry as an example, there is no breakthrough. It appears like a breakthrough because you get this relief of having a high cash flow for a while, which comes in the form of a loan that you need to pay back with performances, with concerts and all of that. And the little amount you are get that you can show off with isn't even yours. So you see those celebrities with their quote unquote cribs in Hollywood or some other place, and you see them with a big mansion, 5 cars, 10 golden necklaces and all of that, and you think, whoa, this rapper made it. No, they did not make it. Those mansions aren't theirs. They're just constructed for ritual purposes, so you don't actually live there. Those cars are rented, and much of the gold that you see and jewelry is fake. So they go to some place with some cameras. The celebrities play the role as actors and actresses, and after it's over, they need to go back home to their extended apartment, They get a paycheck at the end of the month, but you think that they've made it. You think that they have all that money because they work hard. And what's the effect of that? You will now look at yourself. Because we human beings, we are reflective beings. We reflect and compare. There's nothing wrong with reflecting on and comparing, but in the world, people reflect and compare in a negative context. So a world individual will see that and think, look at me. I have to go to this 9 to 5 every day. If I don't have any money. I can end up in the streets and look at this guy over there. He has millions. He can't even sing that well, but yet people want to hear him. And look at that, people don't even appreciate me. And what happens? You develop depression, you develop low self-esteem, you develop suicidal thoughts, and that is what the purpose of all that celebrity cult is. Because it's a cult. It's to use those actors as bait. The celebrity cult.
Um, when it comes to trying to make it in the artistic industries or things that involve, creativity, because they can't be controlled, because it would be self-defeating if you control something creative. A lot of people, they will go to universities, which are also just Greek fraternities, to basically brainwash you into Catholic Masonic thinking. But anyway, they go to these institutions, and after they get their degrees, they leave, and then they're wandering around looking for opportunities. And then what happens is that the way the system works and the way the demons capture you is that you become depressed, because you're thinking, I've done all of this and now I've got nothing. And then they will travel to Hollywood, because a lot of people, they think, oh, if you travel to Hollywood, then you're going to make it. Just same way a lot of people, and then they'll be invited by somebody who notices that they are passionate, and then they'll be invited to a party, and or they'll be introduced to somebody, and then that's when they'll see various levels of strange things. And there's like a clearance level. It's like, if you don't have a problem with the drugs, then they'll be like, okay, he's okay with that. Then they'll introduce them to various things like sodomy, and then it will go up and up and up to see what will happen. And once you see too much, you can't leave. That's how it works. So if you get freaked out by the lower level stuff, then you can leave relatively safely, but you might have to keep your mouth closed. But if you go higher up, then you either go along with it, or that's why if you're not in Christ, you have no protection in that situation. So it's not a safe thing to pursue fame in any way. If you're going to make it in any entertainment type thing, try to do something on a local level and build it with believers, and just do faith and your own input, but be very careful who you connect with, and don't be impressed by people who know top names, because a lot of them, they're connected to cults and stuff.
Indeed. I'm going to show all of you something. Nyron, you'll be able to see it. People that follow on YouTube can see it also. Let me just make myself big. Yes. Yes, over there. What is this? Let me know in the live chat. Well, let me turn to. All people can read what's written there, but okay, within 30 seconds I'm going to reveal it. Meanwhile, opening the live stream on my mobile phone, so I can follow the live chat also. Hold on. Okay, this is a coin. It's a piece of metal, and on one side you have the value in numbers. You see it here. And at the other, you have the face. Is why pagans are so.
Okay. And about the Catholic system and hard work, again, the whole hard work deception is the basis of what the slaves of the system adhere to. There's something called the Catholic Prayer of Saint Joseph, and it talks about the sanctity of labor. So, and you might hear about this various films that represent Catholic philosophy. They might talk about hard work and so forth, and God wants them to work and stuff like that. It's to make people feel that your righteousness is associated with work. So it's really just work salvation. But even if it's not about salvation, it's also about defining your righteousness by hard work, which is a scam, because those who have everything, not only do they not work hard, they do nothing, and they also dump abuse onto the people who are working for them. So, yeah, that's just a point there when in regards to hard work. So they're actually secretly doing money rituals, and they're accessing the spirit to get these things, but they're telling commoners that it's about hard work, which is a huge scam.
Indeed, it's a scam indeed. And if you would go to YouTube, for example, maybe you encounter a lot of people. Yes, I believe you can see it right now. Hold on. See it right there. Yes, I got it. You'll get a lot of results like this over here. Those are pagans openly showing what they are doing. No, I'm not going to play one of them. So, why are pagans so open about what they do? It is because pagans for the spirituality to work. That's something pagans understand. However, when it comes to believers, we often listen to pagan Christianity. And in pagan Christianity, they tell you it's all about going to heaven after you die. And in this life, you just have to go through stuff. Let me see. Why is it? They're quite blunt in what they do. Yet believers are told that we need to be respectful. We need to not offend other people's feelings. So hold on a minute. We need to consider other people's feelings. We're not mentioning Christ often, but pagans show you their dirt into your face. Now, not all pagans do bad stuff. There are many pagans that want to do good stuff, but look at this. What they're doing is demonic. But they do their demonic thing openly. And they're not ashamed of it. So why are there believers out there who are ashamed of doing God's will? Because those pagans, okay, let me put back the, where do I see it? Oh, here's the Hangouts. Because those pagans, they know the type of world we're living in. They know that in this system, you'll be exploited and drained. And they know how commoners are, that most commoners don't want to face reality and just want to leave. And they know that once you become financially autonomous, a lot of people will turn on you. So pagans are quite realistic, and they realize, okay, we need to have a spiritual cover. And often they lack knowledge, and they end up with paranormal aid. Pagans that are experienced, they know that with paranormal aid, there will always be some side effects, some tragic side effects, and they are willing to deal with it. Look, it should be believers showing off the relief that works for them. Think about it like this, believers. If the world sees people that claim the name of Christ only going to a building every Sunday, and they see pagans who worship demons being openly active with their paranormal activity, and things work out for them financially, what are people going to think? They're going to think, hold on a minute, why are they talking about Christ and God all the time? They call him Savior, but a Savior can't save them from the afflictions in daily life. And now you have people who are quote unquote going to hell because they worship demons and it isn't going well with them. Then why is this God not powerful enough to make his people prosperous? Why does his people depend on the slave system, and those that worship demons, they have some way off from the slavery? It doesn't add up, believers. It shouldn't be like this at all. And that is one of the reasons why we need to remain active. Okay? So I want to talk about the celebrity cult because you need to understand what a celebrity is. Before I begin, Nyron, is something you want to interject here? Feel free.
Well, just as an intro, you're about to talk about the celebrity cult. Yeah, it's really to make people feel really bad about themselves. So it's a glorified victim. As you mentioned in a video before, there's two jokers. You've got the sad joker, which has no colors, and then the colorful joker. And the colorful joker is they want to kill themselves probably even more than the one who is sad, who appears sad. Because when when you're forced to appear happy, it's even worse. That's why rich kids can be very miserable, and a lot of them have to take drugs or feel the need to take drugs. But anyway, yeah, it's a glorified victim, basically. So yeah, you can continue.
Yes. When I'm going to let me look up one video right now. Just give me a half minute. I just want to show you a short video, YouTube video. It's less than a minute, I believe. And I'm going to give a commentary on it because it's a useful video. But meanwhile, when I'm looking for the video, I realized that the women that were set apart in witch cults where they served as collective prostitutes. And many of them were forbidden from having sexual relationships with men, so they ended up in sodomy with one another. And from this, you had the Vesta Virgins, and from the Vesta Virgins, you go on, you have cults that look like it. But before the Vesta Virgins, you had many other small witch cults. There was one dominant one in Europe, ancient Europe that is, and that was the Artemis cult, or the followers of just women at all. So Aphrodite had actually, they were so fascinated by her that they began to follow her. And those women, they learned special crafts, they've learned how to make medicine, they learned some knowledge that they passed through, and they became important figures in the community. And at the same time, they were avoided also because they were quote unquote weird. That is the beginning of the celebrity cult. Later, when the Greeks established city-states all over the place and they became a dominant maritime empire, they eventually became the world empire under Apollo. What happened was that you had male celebrities, which was men in their 40s who were seen as sex symbols, and they used to go after little boys. Now, this was going on for a long time before the Greek Empire was established, but during the Greek Empire, it was solidified as the norm in the world. So, the celebrity cult has to do with men preying on little boys and women having hatred towards men. That's the origin of the celebrity cult. So there is nothing wholesome about it. Is there anything you want to interject, Nyron? You can interrupt me if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, just a comment on the Vestal versions and the how it's spoken about in the media. The popular comedian Ali G had a discussion, and it had an actual Jesuit in the discussion, in a comedy discussion. They tried to make it look like a joke. Ali G's jokes reveal the truth in plain sight very, very heavily. One time he said, the nuns are part-time strippers, and it showed a response from the actual Jesuit, looking very angry and saying, you should be careful how you talk. So he was basically revealing where the nuns.
I found someone that uploaded his video, one of the videos that he made years back, and it has to be like this. Yes, it can begin now. Hold on.
Sure, we know what a celebrity is, but what's the bait? The celebrity atmosphere is to lure you in.
He has his own private jet, and limousines are transporting him all over the place. They show you a mega pastor, a pastor whose church has over 10,000 members, a pastor who's preaching, quote unquote, preach the word of God, preaching on prosperity, and many people, so-called, come to faith and people get healed. It's not a form of flesh. Or they can show you in the criminal world a gangster who has sold so much cocaine that he lives in mansions and all of that. So all over the world, in every industry or in every societal context, they give you flesh. The flesh appears real to you, but it's not real. And for the slavery to be effective, you must believe in the flesh. That's why they always talk, that's why they always talk about hard work. Because why would you work hard if there's no reward? No hard work ethic could survive if there is no reward thrown into your face all the time. That's why you need to have the flesh for people to believe in it. And it's because people see the flesh and they think the flesh is real, they now feel bad about themselves, and that motivates them to work hard. And by doing that, they will lose empathy, they will lose patience, and they become more and more narcissistic over time. And that's how, just as Yahweh Rules said in his video, Satan is using the flesh to send people to hell. That is his purpose, to trick people into the dark side, causing many to turn into reprobates to join him in his self-pity in the lake of fire. But the commoner sees the flesh, whether it's a successful businessman or a mega church pastor, or whether it's some scientist with over 200 articles, whatever it is, the commoner sees the flesh and they don't make the connection that there may be some demonic force behind it to drag them into destruction. They don't see it. So that is what it is with this world. All the flesh society shows you is a scam. It's nothing but a hoax. It's factual, it's there, but what they're showing you is a scam. So Nairon, interject.
So there's different contexts. So it depends on what a person's self-esteem is based on. So I say normally that there's three types of arrogance, like there's military arrogance or tough guy arrogance, there's intellectual arrogance, and there's moral arrogance. So depending on like what you're into, there's something there. So you have like a mega pastor, so holy. You got the tough guy, top military special forces type who maybe now consults for a defense corporation, and then you've got also you've got sexual arrogance as well. So the model type. So there's always some kind of bait in every area of life to catch different people, just like marketing for anything. And again, when it comes to the mega pastors as well, you see an example is Run DMC, and he was a rapper, and he's also on a mainstream TV show with reality TV, like somebody who represents this is quite obvious, but somebody who represents Christ would not be promoted in that way.
Indeed. And you mentioned marketing, and that's interesting because marketing has to deal with steering the market. Liberals have belief in this thing called the market. The market is a mechanism in which the emotions and the wills of people are manipulated into a specific direction. And in capitalism, they teach you that to become successful, you must find a gap in the market, or a hole in the market, as they call it. So you look at society, or you look at the community, you see where there's a need, and you jump in the need to provide the need with a product. Whether your product serves well or not doesn't matter. As long as people think your product is good, you win. So in capitalism, they teach you to exploit your neighbor to be at ease. And there are many people that claim to follow Christ. They're supporting capitalism. They support the free market, not realizing the abominations they're holding on to. Because the market comes from ancient Rome and ancient Greece, where you had the marketplace, where you had the temple prostitutes, where they also did conducted business. Because businessmen back then went to pagan temples to get favor from the demons, and there were also temple prostitutes around who were either transgender or they were male. There were female prostitutes, but those were rare because it's the Apollonian system in which women are not valued. So that's why it's important to know what it is you're in agreement with. You cannot be in agreement with an abomination and be prosperous in faith at the same time. That is not going to work. And Naron, you mentioned about the modeling type, and this is the thing with that whole modeling world. Let me then just give an example of that because I've made a video about it already. In ancient times, amongst the Greeks, it was common for men to be away from their families. Unless you were a farmer and lived all the way in a rural area. In general, if you lived near the city, you were expected to partake in city life as a man. From a young age, you were taken away from your parents to follow education. When you arrived in your teenage years, you often joined the military or the navy or something manly that was considered was actually violent, but was considered manly. Over there, you learned how to socialize. You learned how to do various things. It's through mathematics and sports that you prove yourself as a man. It's when you approach 30 that you were allowed to show interest in females, mainly for reproduction. But for women, it was different. Women grew up in a sheltered environment, and they were considered children, even if they were adults mentally. I'm saying that as it is. And around age 15, when the women were considered fertile, they were marketed at the temple. And that's where the prom ritual in high school comes from. In the Latin America, you have I forgot how they call it. You have the celebration when a girl turns 15. That's a later version of it. So they marketed the women who at age 15, age 16, and it went like this. Women had to dress themselves in a sexually provoking way or with long, expensive dresses, depending on the financial status of their families. And they had to drink wine, they had to act in a sexual way, not actually having sex with one another, but just act in a sexualized way. And you had men beyond their age of 30, sometimes approaching 50, coming there, checking them out. And one by one, the men would select wives and concubines out of them. So if a woman was not selected, which was done on purpose, she would become the scapegoat. And all the other women would feel embarrassed that one of them was not chosen. And the one that was embarrassed would develop psychological issues, people would develop suicide issues, and she would be mentally scarred for the rest of her life. And after this selling at the quote unquote fertility market, you would have seasonal parties where the women would go to the gods, or they would which were demons, to get assistance sexually for their marriages or with their boyfriends. And that's where you have the gala celebrations coming from. That's where it's all rooted in. And today, you have the modeling industry, which is an extension of this ancient Greek fertility cult that marketed females with the purpose to cause mental dysfunction in the females so that the females will be hindered in doing God's will. And with that, to trigger many women as possible to the dark side to drag them all the way to hell. And today, the same thing is happening with those modeling agencies. So you see now that the Greek system has changed its operation over time to fit with the times. But it's the same operation to cause sexual confusion in the masses. Maybe you can talk a bit about sexual confusion, Naron.
Yeah, sexual confusion is a self-esteem issue. Even in normal psychology, or popular psychology, they say that sodomy or homosexuality is about a person trying to become the other person. So they see that a male sees another male as their god figure. So by trying to become that, you are attached to them in in a very perverted manner. And that's how military systems are run, isn't it? Where a person says following orders, because following orders is a voice in your ear. So you're supposed to, a prophet follows the voice of God, isn't it? So you're basically got this a godlike connection to somebody, and really that is supposed to be for God. And when it is for God, it's a healthy thing, because it's a spirit and in truth thing, as Christ says, those who worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. If you apply that to another male, that is sodomy. If you apply that to a female, well, then that is you becoming a beta male. So it's a form of inverted sodomy, where you're encouraging, because if a woman accepts that, then she becomes like a witch. So she's inverting her femininity. So it's the same as sodomy. When it comes to the modeling industry as well, I'll also talk about how the word model itself, it implies that you're not human. So it's like if you got a train model, it implies that it's not a real train. So you got a model human that is there as a product. So it's like a meat market where you just choose what you want. And also a cover for the transgender industry, and makeup is mainly, it's not for females, it's for men to cover up their masculine appearance so that they can pass for females. That's the main reason for it. And it's a cover for prostitution in general. And that should scare you, because you see there's a child modeling industries as well. And you also got child beauty pageants where you've got children wearing makeup, and a lot of them are transgender boys as well. So it's hidden in plain sight. The child sex trade is right in your face anyway, because everyone should be protesting. Hold on, you got children dressed up in makeup being paraded in front of the world. Like they're protesting all kinds of stuff like animal rights and cutting down trees, and nobody's protesting that. So you can clearly see the world is got wrong priorities, and the Apollonians are getting away with a lot.
Yes. And the thing is, it comes down to this, believers. Where is your spiritual investment? The reason why pagans succeed in their money rituals is because they believe in this thing called money. They believe in its power, but they don't want to submit to some devil worshiper telling them to work hard. They want to master that power themselves. And they do, for the biggest extent. Well, it's paranormal, and they're still not in Christ, so they don't have actual safety. They only have relief from danger. So there will always be some side effect coming, and pigs are aware of it, but they take it. Christ, I'm talking to believers now, he told us that in the world we will have tribulation. But he said, be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. So if Christ said, I've overcome the world, so if you're in the world, be of good cheer. If Christ told us that, then we must accept that there will be tribulation. This does not mean that we embrace all difficulties coming our way. No, because Christ said, I've overcome the world. So Christ made plain, you have power to overcome. And Christ said that we will shall trample on scorpions and serpents, referring to demonic principalities, and nothing shall by no means harm us. We have power of the whole camp of the enemy to trample it down. So that means that difficulties will be there, we can't prevent them, but we are capable of overcoming and overruling and destroying difficulty without endangering ourselves. Because pagans, they don't have actual victory, they don't have actual safety, they only have relief. They have like this bubble around them, energetic bubble on top of their energy fields that guards them from violence and danger. But after a while, that bubble pops, and then it's gone, and then they're completely open and vulnerable to danger again. And not only that, all the danger and violence that accumulate over time against them suddenly overtakes them. That's why you have people out there. They have a quiet family life, children doing well in school, the husband and wife are in harmony with one another. They have both well-paying jobs, and one day suddenly one of them dies in a car accident, or the whole family dies in a tragedy. And you think, how could this happen? Everyone is shocked. It is because they had a paranormal cover that worked, but all the anger, all the danger, or the jealousy against them accumulated. While the bubble was still there, nothing affected them directly. But once the bubble popped and the bubble was gone, everything overtook them and they were finished. Just like that, they were snatched away. Pagans that endure, they keep renewing their charms. Some of them turn to the dark side because they, in a sense that they give over to evil, because they learn that by transferring the side effects to someone else, you can remain at ease. So they end up doing it. That's why sometimes you have a family, everyone in the family is well off except one family member who's on drugs or whatever. And this because that individual has become the scapegoat to carry the weight of the paranormal charm. That's why you have families where everyone is well off financially, but one individual is homeless. And you think, why is exactly this child homeless? It is because the family benefits from it. That child carries the side effects of all the charms. That's how they do it. So, where are your spiritual investments? That's why it's important to know what to agree with and what to reject. Yes, that's something quite important. That's something believers really need to work on.
They also showed a documentary about all the celebrities that have really poor family members, and you'll find out that there's a lot of people that have millionaires in their family, and they've got nothing, and it's a very common thing.
Yes, because here's another thing. If you have a guy out there who's a warlock, he's not a big one, he's not into any demonic contact, just a warlock, just uses black magic for daily life. That individual, if they divert a cash flow towards them, he may be able to help someone out. There's nothing wrong with it. But those that are in demonic contracts, they're not allowed to help anyone out. Because if they do that, they'll be spreading the curse. So that's why you have millionaires. Oh, now we know that millionaires itself, that's actually a myth. You have people on the earth that own more than 1 million in their currency. But the millionaire lifestyle itself is a scam. But that's why you have people with a lot of money and they don't do anything when there's a need in the community. Why is that? Because they're not allowed to. The moment they break the demonic contract, they're finished. That's why you have celebrities. For example, in the United States, you have black celebrities. When things are going on in the black community, like police violence against black people, police killing blacks for nothing, why don't they openly stand up and do something about it? Well, some speak about it, but many don't. It's because they're not allowed to use the money for anything constructive. Because the money is a manifestation of their demonic pact. That's why it can only be used for demonic stuff. What they can do is start some charity organization that helps some people out, but behind the scenes, they're doing worse. That is what they can do.
And that's why they're terrified of anyone with a good conscience having money, especially believers. because the purpose of the charities is to make, it's a gatekeeping operation to make sure that nobody does anything about it. Because they think, oh no, look, somebody's already doing something about it, we can relax. But if nobody's doing something about it, people are more likely to get fed up and do something. And it's the same way with kings. They know through history that if you cause a population to starve, like they will overthrow, they will storm the castle. So they have to make sure that people are happy enough. That's basically Roman peacekeeping, isn't it? It's just keeping the peace. That's all they care about. But while the peace is going on, all the ritual sacrifices are still going on, and people are willingly ignorant.
That's exactly that's exactly right. For example, let's talk about the Netherlands for a moment. In the Netherlands, there is poverty, but there are social provisions like welfare or other stuff that can help people out. In the Netherlands, there's a lot that goes on around here that doesn't add up. People know it's wrong. They know they're being lied to, but because they have their comfort zone, they have their man cave as men, where they have their PS4 or the Xbox or whatever. The females have their pubs where they go, or they have their whatever group or yoga, whatever they have. So they have their tiny spheres of relief, and because they have that, they're not willing to give that up. So when there's injustice going on, grievous injustice, it will show that they're upset, but actually do something about it means acknowledging that things aren't as good as they pretend to be, and people don't want to go there. So once you provide an economic bubble to a population, you can oppress them far more effectively than if you come with starvation. When you come with starvation, by shutting down food supplies, you're guaranteed that people will lose their minds. But when you give them a surplus of cheap food or cheap products, people will perceive the overflow of cheap food or cheap products as prosperity, and they are appeased, and they won't look beyond it. That's why capitalism tends to worsen a population instead of improving it. Yes. Someone said here, I think the stimulus package is a form of blackmail. Yes, it is. Well, the government should provide for you in times of need when there is no other option, because they're the ones that set the context for the economy to begin with. But a stimulus check, it goes like this. The United States is a union of separate countries forming one big country called the United States. Okay? And it's not well organized, it's not well integrated with one another. It's not. The European Union is far better organized than the United States. Sounds very weird, but that's the case. So they don't reform the Union, in this case the United States, and they don't uproot the problems from the root to improve things once and for always. Instead, they give you some relief, a stimulus check, just to appease you. So that later, when you point out all the lying and scamming by the leaders, commoners will tell you, shut up, man, you have a stimulus check, right? Chill out, man, they're doing whatever they can. You're like conspiracy theorists, man, just work with them. So blackmail can also work in a sense that someone doesn't ask something back from you, but by doing what they're doing, they're shutting you down from effectively oppose them when they later do something that doesn't add up. And that's also something often
Can you
happens.
also talk about blood? Can you also tell the viewers about blood money in relation to that as well?
Yes, because blood money comes to this. Finances are spiritual, okay? The currency, whether it's dollars, euros, pounds, or whatever, are just the physical tools. Finances are spiritual, it's energetic. When someone drains other people at their expense, what that individual gets is what they call a karmic debt in paganism. Now, I'm not promoting karma because that's not biblical. What they mean with karma is just energetic tensions. If you have positive If you have a positive climate, they call it good karma. If you have a negative tension, they call it bad karma. Because just an energy tension. When someone is surrounded by a negative energy tension, those who draining people, is that over time, the finances associated with this individual will be accursed. So, anyone that involves with this individual on a financial level will be accursed by association. Okay, so I'm going to give an example from history. Um, the Portuguese began to kidnap people from West Africa in the late 1400s. Well, actually, 1444 they arrived in West Africa, but it's later in the late 1400s that the kidnapping became hot. So you had those Portuguese companies, capitanias, they're called in Portuguese, in English captaincies. They received permission from the Portuguese king to trade overseas, and they did. In 1500, when Portugal had to relocate to Brazil, they did. What happened was those companies kidnapped people from their families. They forced them to work hard on plantations, even beat many of them, and some of their men also sexually molested the children or the women. So all that was going on. So all that negative energy that was released by all of this trauma, it was harvested by the demons of the company owners. So those companies became haunted with demonic activity. And that is why the Portuguese administration of Brazil was a mess. Because you had demonically infested companies managing a big landmass. And everyone who got involved with the Portuguese economy had to deal with those corporations sooner or later. And everyone who did that, they faced difficulties in life. They faced hardship. That's why most people preferred the Spanish economy above the Portuguese one. Because what the Spanish did was, the Spanish constructed kingdoms in the Americas, and the locals, the energetic climate of the Spanish economy was lighter than that of the Portuguese economy. And the same way today, you have this corporate world that's immensely infested by generations of exploitation and causing trauma. And such a climate will collapse eventually. But what those pagan businessmen did, or what they're doing now, is that they trick the population to partake in their cursed corporate economy with those jobs. And because of that, they now can transfer all that demonic waste onto the masses. For example, you can have a woman who's 28. She's happy, she just got married, and she's happy in life. She goes to her job every day. 2 years later, she's dead. Terminal cancer. She died. What happened? How could a woman that was completely healthy suddenly pass away within 2 years? Where did the cancer or the cancer come from? Out of thin air? No. She worked at a company whose finances was accursed. So she, by association, became involved with those cursed finances, and she had no paranormal cover and no protection from Christ. So the pagan businessman transferred it onto her, and now she was the one dying, and the corporation is saved. That is what they do. That's how blood money works. That's why, as a believer, there are times God will not allow people to invest in you. Why? Because once they invest in you, you'll partake in their misery. And God called you to be delivered, not to be yoked in sadness and tragedy with the world.
And even the Pharisees understood what Judas threw the money back. They said, we can't accept this because it's blood money.
Yes. Because, look, it's not the coins itself. Let me say it like this. The coins were just metal. But it's the negative investment in those coins that made it dangerous. So if they took back the coins that were negatively charged, they would inherit a lot of diseases and bad stuff would happen. So they just allowed it that way. And there's one thing you need to understand, believers. Blood money, or just call it um, karmic debt, that's how they call it in paganism also, it will always collapse. And anyone who has accumulated wealth in a negative way, each one of them will face this collapse sooner or later. They can only transfer the weight onto someone else. Sometimes, when a place is haunted and nobody wants to deal with it, they'll sell it for a very cheap price. You may see a villa in Austria. The villa should cost around 4 million euros, but they only sell it for 200,000 euros. And you think, how can they sell such an expensive building for such a few money? And this is Europe. Now you know it. And from time to time, when corporations want to get rid of the danger that haunts them, they will make they will they will give a lot of discount on their products to get many people to purchase their products to distract people from what's going on. So yes, such things happen. So anything you want to add to this, Nir? I mean, Niron?
Not specifically, no. You can continue for now.
Look, and that is why, as believers, it is important for us to develop our own economies locally. Because this is what you need to understand. The world as we see it now, with people going into the jobs from 9 to 5, all of that, it's a very new thing. It's a very toxic thing and it's quite new. It's 2020 now. In 1820, going 200 years back, yes, we had the Spanish Empire that governed the world still. It was about to collapse, we know that. But back then, you had the village, you had villages, you had towns, and the villages and towns had contracts with one another. You can have the family Johnson over here in Kent, and they produce for another town 200 kilometers away. And that town has a contract with another town. And that's how they conduct the business locally. And by conducting business locally, the amount of coins or the amount of cash kept circulating in the same hands. Let me give an example of the south of England because it's a very easy example. If you go to the south of England, you will encounter people speaking posh English, which is this French English with French influences. It felt like this. During the Middle Ages, when France and Britain were governed by the same king, you had those farmers in the south of England that began farming, of course, and they began to export their products across the English Channel. That means to France, which was they had the same king back then, so it didn't really matter. So over time, even Britain and France had separate kings now, they kept this trade. And this trade was just across the English Channel, just a small sea. So over time, all those families in the south of England, they had a lot of money collectively, but they spent the money on each other. So they had their own shops, they had their own horse breeders. They made sure that everything of their own, they only paid taxes to the king in London, but apart from that, they had their own country within a country, kind of. So, for example, let's say you have Johnson, who has £200,000. He invests £100,000 throughout the community in the south of England. And those people also invest their money in each other. So everyone invests in one another, they keep transferring amongst each other. So even if someone ends up with most of the money, it will still be theirs because it keeps circulating around. So nobody eventually ends up poor. Having a circular economy is sustainable over time, over multiple generations. When you go to the ancient Israelites, that's what they had. You had the 12 tribes, land masses. You had the tribe of Levi without a land mass. They were spread in towns. And they had a circling economy amongst the tribes. And that is what kept them wealthy, despite being attacked from time to time. That's why from all over the world people came to rob and steal from Israel. Why? Because remember, they had the wealth of Egypt that was transferred onto them when they left Egypt, right? So when their descendants inherited the promised land, that wealth kept circulating amongst them. So poverty became almost non-existent amongst them. Having a local economy in which the cash flow circulates in a group, that is the way to remain wealthy. Why? Because wealth is a collective thing. Health is also collective. You can't be healthy on your own. You need other people for it. So wealth is also something that has to circulate with each other. Where it's circulating in a small area or between a few people, that's how it needs to be. What happened since 1820, when the British Empire took over in 1826, is that the British Crown, which refers to the banking cartel behind the British Parliament, they developed a structure in which you have the corporate world destroying local economies that were circular. So now, instead of having local fishermen, local blacksmiths, all these people colliding with one another, you now had corporations where people need to have jobs. So there was no circular cash flow anymore. Now there was a payout through a paycheck. And this meant that people were able to get quick to the pub. It goes to Louis Vuitton, it goes to Armani, but does it ever come back to you? No. But if you go, but if you're in a circular economy and you say, you know what, I'm going to purchase art from that brother over there. I don't have to like these drawings. I'm going to purchase anyway. Let that brother purchase something from me or from someone else, and that's how we keep circulating it. What happens overall, you have a continuous cash flow that doesn't stop, and you're guaranteed that it will come back to you sooner or later. But what you have now is that people get a paycheck and they spend it and it doesn't come back. And later they're stressed in how they're going to do stuff. In order to get away from this exploitation system, we need to do what Christ commanded us to do. The Old Testament is there to teach us in light of the New. We're under the New Covenant, so we follow the New Covenant. But there are things from the Old Covenant that are practical for the here and now. For example, having local circular economies. When you don't have a circular economy locally, what's going to happen? When those corporations collapse, there's nothing left. Because actually, no economy can last if it's not circular. The reason why globalization worked was because you had those British corporations that turned American, and those corporations, they circulated assets amongst themselves at the expense of the commoners, and the commoners only consumed, and eventually the corporations became wealthier and the commoners became poorer, and only because there was a surplus by exploiting goods in Africa and to some extent Latin America, it's only because of that globalization continued successfully. And that led to people becoming lazy. They don't want to have many children anymore because children cost you stuff. People became lazy, people became narcissistic, and now they're reaping the fruits of it. So having a circular economy between 2 or 3 believers, that's important. When Christ ascended to heaven after his resurrection, that was what the apostles did. They constructed and installed circular economies, and the Apostle Paul contributed to this. They had a circular economy amongst believers in the first places, and that's why the economy of the first believers, that were called Christians, overtook the world's economy. That's why in the 4th century, the Greek system pretended to be Christian. It became the Catholic system to get a hold again on the world's economy, because believers overtook the world's economy within 3 centuries after Christ ascended to heaven. How? by being practical, by learning from the Old Testament but operating in the New. Someone asked here, what does make friends with unrighteous mammon mean? What is unrighteous mammon? Unrighteous mammon is the monetary system, which at the top is blood money through and through, but you have no choice but to deal with it because that's how the world works. Use it in a Christ-centered way to do good in people's lives, and that's how you win people for Christ and you shut down excuses of the system. So Nyron, anything you want to add to this? Feel free to interrupt me because I want the subscribers of mine to know about your knowledge too.
Okay. Well, the Catholic system has this false dichotomy and Hegelian dialectic when it comes to economic systems. They want you to see this capitalism versus socialism and various levels of various extremities of the two things. And, communism is supposed to be the most extreme version of socialism, and they show you the negative sides of both. And when you see the capitalist system, they say, "Oh, you're free to make your own money." So you're using your own intelligence, and this is what the American dream often promotes. They say, "Oh, you're using your own intelligence and your own skills, and you're allowed to make it." But what they don't tell you is that if you make too much, you'll be hijacked by cults, which will tell you to sell out, or they'll start attacking your wealth, and they might even threaten you or force you to sell, like how the mob is associated with. That's again just Catholic and Masonic in nature. But they show you the socialist side as something to do with scrounging, and but what they don't tell you is that the actual system themselves, they operate closer to what they criticize. How even like people might look down on homeless squatter types who take over buildings, and basically they have circular economies, which is what some of the leftist university kids are taught to do, using legal knowledge, because it's also legal to do that for practical purposes. They look after each other, but they tell everybody else to fight in the rat race and to run in the rat race. But they themselves share wealth, and they don't actually own things in their own name. They own things collectively as religious groups. So they get that from how Israel operated and how the early church operated. But what they do, they only show you the negative side of it. So whenever there's a dichotomy, one of those sides is a corrupted version of the truth. So what they call socialism is really how God's people operated. But the one that they show is the scam where all the wealth goes to a hidden group who mismanages the funds, or what they call misappropriation of funds, and they do their own thing. And people are asking, and there's a conspiracy now, "Oh, I don't trust anybody now. I'm not going to put money in the collective pot because you don't know what these people are going to do." So again, there's this mistrust. So now everybody says, "I want to be independent. I want to make my own money and do my own thing." But that doesn't exist either, because like I said, you'll be hijacked and you still have to draw out a business plan, going to pagan banks begging for money. So it's the same thing. Because there's something called legal begging as well, where charities, they go out into the streets and sometimes they use sexual attraction as well to do this, to get people's attention, to make them give money to an organization. But if you look at it, everybody has needs, but they use emotional blackmail to make certain things look like begging or depending on somebody else. And that's the reason also why prejudice is a very important part of the system as well, because it's the prejudice that causes people to operate from hatred. So when they see a certain type of person succeeding, they are motivated to act against them, and they use morality as a cover. Like even a lot of the narc cops as well, like they're chosen from backgrounds that were involved in the same thing, and they still are involved in the same thing, but they're motivated by jealousy. So it's actually their desire to pull someone else down. It's nothing to do with the morality or them destroying the community. So, you know, police will be Masonic, and they will have a lot of white supremacist ideologies in their attitudes, and that's what motivates them to keep wealth in certain groups. And everybody who has a cult will have a particular ideology, and mostly there's some kind of racial element to it. But when everybody gets along and they all believe in the same thing, that's why you have one spirit, one baptism. They look after those who believe the same thing. So that's why they want to tell believers that you need to tolerate everything. And a lot of the time, they want to pull down believers. They have no tolerance towards believers whatsoever, but we have to tolerate everything. And we have to allow the world to control and to dictate how we operate financially, and how we operate in general. They want to regulate how our relationships and so forth.
Indeed, Naira. And here's the thing. A circular economy, hey, look at this, believers. Look at the bigger picture. In a circular economy, you are backed financially and economically. For example, in the Middle Ages until I believe the late 18th century, or maybe it ended maybe a little bit before, you had this agreement in Danish, Swedish, and some Baltic cities, together with Amsterdam and Groningen and some other Dutch cities, that they trade with one another. So you had grain being exported from the Baltic cities towards Amsterdam. From Amsterdam, you had products like that were a bit more luxurious, for example, like rum or whatever going there. And you had laborers also going from Amsterdam, Groningen to Danish ports. So it was a circular economy, and when things collapsed around them, they still had something to go back to. So when the Dutch Empire collapsed in 1672, when France attacked the Netherlands, the people in Amsterdam and Groningen, they could still continue because they had these centuries of trade relations with Pacific cities. Now, in the 19th century, all of that was thrown out of the window, though to nationalism, stable stuff before. Now, we as believers need to understand that the way out of this toxic grip of the Apollonians is by developing local circular economies. Today, local can also be through the internet, so it doesn't have to be locally in just a small place, but do things in a circular way with other believers. By doing that, what you do remains blessed without negative energy by polluted finances. And this is the reason why many banks don't tolerate money laundering, even if it benefits their income. Why? Because in money laundering, you have finances, because finances are energy waves. That's what finances are. And the coins and the cash is just the material we use to reflect this energetic flow. So a negative energy flow will cause sickness, it will cause death, it will cause trauma, it will bring ruin. So when you partake in money laundering, you'll partake in ruin. Even if nobody finds out, and even if the money is now legal, the legality doesn't change the spirituality of the energy stream. If the stream of energy is polluted and poisonous, then it doesn't matter if it's made legal, you will have a legal poisonous energy stream still. You get, do you understand what I've just explained? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the live chat if you understand what I've just explained about finances, cash flow, and money laundering. Let me know. Okay, people understand this. Is there a way to redeem a negative cash flow? There is. That is if the negative cash flow is now converted and invested in something Christ-centered that produces life. Only then can you break the 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 heaviness of that energy of flow. What they do in the world is, because they don't serve Christ, they need victims to transfer the weight of that toxic flow towards. And that's what they do in corporations, causing laborers to get sick, causing laborers to die of cancer, causing laborers to have accidents, to have burnouts. That's what they do. So if there's a negative cash flow, which is a negative flow of energy, they need it to crash somewhere. So that's why they need people to be in a survival mode so that they can easily transfer it onto other people. Because the whole world system is based on money laundering to begin with. It's all a flow of negative energy contained by coins and paper, and now by digits on an internet screen. And now they need to make it workable, but they need to dump the weight and the misery somewhere else. So the whole world operates in money laundering. However, before the 19th century, just for a long time, there were local circular economies that could hinder the impact of this capitalist vampiristic system. But because most local economies and circular economies have been destroyed, and because most people don't even know such thing exists, and because many believers don't read their Bibles, you don't have revival of it, because the way out is to revive local circular economies in which the wealth circulates, because wealth needs to be active, it needs to operate so that it remains a blessing. Do you follow me, believers? Let me know in the live chat. Do you follow what I've just said?
Yeah, and that thing about corporations making people sick, I mean, there's a very huge example from a TV show, Breaking Bad, which was very popular. The story behind it is that he was working for a company and they knew they were exposing him to something that gave him cancer. And he eventually transferred that weight to the community by becoming the biggest meth dealer in the entire area. And so, again, it's transferred. And if that person doesn't die, then and they don't receive Christ, they will spread it to the entire community. And also, he was controlled by a witch wife as well. So that gave him something to prove. So sexual confusion also creates a negative energy that pushed him in the wrong direction.
Thank you, Nairon, for starting about sexual energy, because I've spoken about this quite often on my YouTube channel. That's why I didn't mention it in this live stream. But the root of finances is sexual. Now that I say this, some of you may think, Rashid, have you lost your mind? No, I haven't lost my mind. The root of finances is sexual. Why? Because finances is an energy flow. We human beings, we are sexual beings. Sexuality is the core of our being. So when we emit energy, there is some sexual connotation to it. If you're a man, you have masculine energy because you have a masculine energy field which is quite big. And masculine energy is quite fierce and quite heavy. A female has a feminine energy field, and feminine energy is quite soft and nurturing. So even in our design as spirit beings, there's a difference sexually. Okay? So the sexuality isn't only physical, it's a spirit thing that's a physical outworking. So finances are energy flows that originate in your sexuality. So that means that when your mind is not correct about your sexual nature as God designed you, that means that sooner or later you'll be trapped by some financial curse. When your sexuality is in line with Christ, when you follow God's blueprint for life, the finances will just follow automatically. But when you're out of God's blueprint, then you'll have to toil and work hard, and you get a little back and you collapse very quickly. And that's why the Apollonians, that's why they are obsessed with promoting sexual confusion. Why? Because sexual confusion is the throne of Antichrist. Apollo needs sexual confusion in order to govern the paranormal and to retain Satan's grip on the human species. Without sexual confusion, it's game over for them. And when you have a circular economy, it will benefit marriages, it will benefit sexual relationships in general, it will benefit family formation, you will have more peaceful and more harmonious communities also. So finances have a sexual origin in you as a spirit being. So that's why sexual health should be the number one topic addressed by believers. And that's why believers should not be ashamed about sexuality, because that's how God designed us. Sexuality is modeled after God's joyful intensity as the supreme being. So that's why the man is fierce and donates mentally and physically, and the female receives and transmits. That is God's design for life, God's blueprint. If you're operating God's blueprint, blessed you are. If you're out of blueprint, woe unto you. Is this clear, believers? Is this clear? Let me know in the live chat. If it's not clear, me and Aaron will continue about it. And that's why in the criminal world, when you can't pay back a debt, the drug dealer tries to kill you. Why? Because finances have a sexual origin. And the criminal world is based on sodomy to begin with. Listen, you can, I don't tell you to do this, but you can sell stolen goods on the black market, and you can sell drugs on the street corner without being involved in the paranormal too deeply. But listen, nobody is established in the criminal world without going through backdoor initiations, where they as men allow a warlock cabinet to bust their arse. That's how it goes. If you don't go through a backdoor initiation, pledging allegiance to the god of the thieves, which is Hermes, you don't do that, you don't get into the criminal world. That's why in the criminal world, when you don't pay back your debt, they try to kill you because they feel like you've raped them. Anything, Nyron, you were about to say something?
That's why there's so many phrases that are hidden in plain sight, like owning your ass. And you know, in if somebody doesn't pay somebody, they say you fucks me. They use language like that. They say everything is in relation to, and that's why there's always references to asses. It's like get your ass. It's always ass orientated because it's the system is sodomite. That's why the obsession is there.
That's why when it comes to money, people are more fierce than it comes about physical sexual activity. Let me give an example. If you lie to someone because you didn't want to go to a party, they don't mind. Okay, you want to stay home, but you want to say no, fine. You may have cheated with one of their significant others. Even that, to some extent, they can think, okay, my significant other should have known better, this and that. But if you take away their money or you scam them out of their money, oh dear, they can't sleep at night. They need to get you because finances originate in you as a spirit being. It comes out of your sexuality. So everyone that mismanages this flow out of your sexuality, they're actually mismanaging you as a sexual being. That's why you have, in this, just like as Narion said, you have all those sexual phrases when it comes to finances, because it has an origin in your sexuality. But Western people aren't told this. They're told that finances is just that paycheck you get and those coins that you get from the government. They're not told what finances really are. That's why, and this is something, oh dear. Oh, I'm going to get some attacks for saying this, for revealing this onto you, but I don't care. Christ is with me. That is why this system promotes beta males, effeminate men. Because effeminate men, you can drain them easily. Why? Because they're not masculine, they're not stable. And because they're not stable, you can feed off of them to keep this financial flow going in the world. So it's a type of money laundry with the energy fields of men. That's why You have men out there with no cash whatsoever, but females are comfortable around them because finances are the finances are of energetic flow out of your sexuality, especially as a man. That's why most of the financial policies are directed at men.
And that's what the beast actually is. The beast is a monster sodomite rapist that looks for the weak. So the ultimate form of rape will be the pederasty when they're raping children. And that's how they train them to submit to so-called alpha males in adulthood so that their minds are already used to it. Even when they become strong, their minds are now enslaved. That's why you got big men who follow orders from, people that they can easily kill with their bare hands because their minds have been owned now. And they're basically under a spiritual enslavement.
This is why, because it goes like this. I'm going to give a parable to show you how the system is. You have a group of men who are frustrated and they want to gang rape someone. And they selected some weak guy that they consider is weak, and they're dedicated to gang rape that guy. They're excited, they prepare themselves. They even hired professional boxers to knock the guy out so they can easily have their way. But now, that group of men that wants to gang rape this other guy, they need the assistance of the others to do it. Because if they would just break into his house and all go into his arse all the time, people would say, hey, what is this? So now they need validation in gang raping this guy. Okay? And that's what the financial system of this world is. But who is the one they want to gang rape? Christ. But that can never happen. So who is a substitute? Men. Men created and modeled after God's image, they are the ones. They want to gang rape. They first have to get a grip on your mind. That's what you do through false teaching and through collective trauma. Then it gets you to invest your spiritual essence into this machine, and this corporate machine of theirs. So that's how they generate the cash flow at your expense. And then this is what they really want, but they can't actually do it. Now they have physical access to you to easily arrest you and do all other physical stuff with you. If you're just a little child, it's much easier to victimize you when you're an adult. When you're an adult, you as spirit being can hinder things. But they want to disarm you as a spirit being, especially if you're a man. So the financial system of this world is actually a rape culture aimed at men. But because men don't see the connection between their sexuality and finances, they don't see it for what it is. That is why you have movies where they show you that in companies, the man with a higher position treats the man in lower positions as his host. Saying to them, you do it because I say so. I'm the boss. I don't want to hear you. They immediately become controlling, like they're controlling prostitutes. Because that's what the system is. Finances are the collective outworking of the sexuality of a population. You can't separate the two. So if a population is sexually healthy, the economy will reflect this. If they're sexually filthy, you have problems. And the Western world is quite sexually filthy at the moment with all their embracing. And there are even pedophile groups coming out now demanding respect. It's going to be an interesting time coming decades. So let me look at the...
Even the institutions that assume power over you, that the positions that they put you in, like when police get people on the floor and say, stop resisting. See, that would be an example. If they took that all the way, the military example would be tying a person up to violate them. But that is basically the minor level. And they also get you into a spiritual contract where you believe that they have a right to do certain things.
Mm-hmm. And think about this, believers. Believers, Listen to me. If you have a dad, let's talk about your earthly father now. Let's say you have your earthly dad and he provides for you. And you have this group of men who don't want to do anything with their lives. And they want to sexually unload themselves on your father publicly. Would you trust such people? Would you even consider them your friends? No, you wouldn't. Or what if you're a mother and it's your son that you want to gang rape like that? Would you invite them for dinner, for a cup of tea, or even say hi to them? No, probably not. But what happens? We embrace that same sodomite cult to govern us day and night. We trust their patterns far more than we trust God. What's that? So understand, finances come out of you. Yes, those coins and those pieces of paper and those digits on your bank account, those are external things, external fictions controlled by the governments, all of that. But all that fiction needs you to energize it. Because without you energizing it, they would go out of business and they would collapse. So they need you to be spiritually raped through trauma over and over for them to be at ease. That is why they love this thing about single moms so that men grow up not being confident as a man. There will be single moms from time to time because some men die early or they walk away or they pass away early. But what happens now is that they demonize masculinity and they promote single motherhood indirectly. And by doing that, you get a generation of men who are not comfortable being sexual as God intended to be. And by having such men, you can now continue the system at ease. It's all about feeding the demons to make the demons become relevant. That's what it's all about.
It all depends on fear. And
Yes.
any movie that shows you spiritual things, they will always tell you that they need people to be in fear. That they will mention it, and they talk about it all the time. But that's the food of demons. Without fear, then you won't submit to the rape. So it's about keeping people in fear so that they voluntarily submit. Because if you don't submit, then you're either going to fight, which is not the best option, or you're going to look for the one that's stronger. You're going to say, who can defend me from this beast system that likes to rape me? And you'll be like, hey, there's someone called Christ. I heard about him. He's the creator. And then that's what they don't want. You see, they want people to think that there's no hope. And you often see that when people are trying to leave cults and intelligence agents and stuff like that, they're also trained to teach people you can't escape. There's no point in running, so that you voluntarily stop. But it's like, what do you mean there's no point in running? I can hear your voice. You're nowhere near. I can keep running and you won't be able to catch me. But they want you to voluntarily come back. That's why they pretend to care. And I often mention the health and safety scam. So it's all about safety and security, telling you that you're safe and secure, and blackmailing you, telling you that you're insane for trying to get to safety. Because there's no safety outside of Christ. But they want to invite you back to a place where you can be violated. But now the chains are going to be much stronger. So once you escape, keep going.
Yes. And the following I want to say to the female believers amongst us, sisters in Christ, listen. You, as a female, you are a transmitter and assistant of males. That's how God designed you to be. Not every male out there, your husband, and the men in your life, your sons or your elders. You get what I'm saying here. Be a and be a co-creator with your spouse. Be a decorator in your community, in the sense that you provoke the men around you to bring forth healthy finances. Because the system depends on draining male energy, it depends on the raping men. So be the type of woman that makes plain that you won't tolerate your men to become dominated by another man. Okay? Be like that. Be feminine. There's power in it. And when you do that, you'll be a role model for other women also. What happens now is that you have a lot of women who want a violent man to become their sugar daddy. So they are promoting male on male rape, because that's what the system is. It's male on male rape. It's only that it doesn't rape physically, but it rapes mentally and spiritually. Ladies, do not become an enabler of this rape culture that's going on. Because if the men are raped spiritually over and over again, this violence will work out in domestic violence against women. So you want to stop violence against women, stop the energetic rape of men. Stop enabling it. Once you do that, men will emit better finances, which will be far more healthier, and women will be joyful and at peace everywhere, which is God's plan. So that's an important assignment for you ladies. Someone asked me here, how do I help my husband to get free? Be feminine. Let them know, where's your ambition, darling? I'm the woman here, where's your ambition? Come on. Not only the physical, which you get, I know that should be there, but also in other areas. Just let them know, hey, where is your ambition? If you act as a woman in line with Christ, as God intends you to be, he'll have no choice but to become manly. It's either that or he'll disappear. One of the two. And if he disappears, then you are far better off without him. And it's nothing for you men out there who follow Christ. Do not put up with a female that does not contribute to healthy finances. If she does not contribute to you operate in an energetic health, that means she's pulling you in sexual pollution. That means she's sexually filthy. That means she will draw predators to you. If she doesn't want to operate in the blueprint of Christ, feminine, in her natural strength as God intended for her, then kick her out. If she gets upset with you for not joining her toxicity, show her the door. Roll a red carpet telling her you're free to leave, lady. Please don't put up with fake news, brothers. We've done it for way too long. I sound a bit emotional now, but I'm just very serious about this.
There's also an unhealthy dichotomy when it comes to how females select men. They either are dealing with the toxic wealth, and then they're thinking, okay, I've got someone strong that can provide for me. That's what it looks like. And then they see the amount of abuse associated with it, because a lot of the people at the top of these organizations are psychopaths. And then when they see the reality of it, now they try to look for somebody who has nothing that they can control. So now the self-esteem issue is now making them want to operate as a witch to control a man and to basically keep him on a leash so that doesn't happen to them. So again, it's fear-based, and anything that is fear-based is always control-based, and it makes a person want to play God in some way, and that's how Satan thrives. So we must look for those who are in line with Christ and who are humble and strong, because the meek shall inherit the earth.
Someone asked, fearful of violent men, or you need to be delivered from fear, and resent Prince Charming. Oh, Prince Charming is Apollo. I don't mind you resenting him, but just don't pay that fact any attention. I live with both. How do I get delivered? Renew your mind. Change your imaginations. Imagine in line with Christ. Psalms 123 is a good beginning. Do that. Also, Isaiah chapter 66, Isaiah chapter 60 also. Just go through the word and pay attention to the blessings and meditate on that. So it all comes down to this, believers. The enemy wants you to remain sexually confused, especially if you're a man. If you're a woman, okay, the enemy doesn't care about women at all, but for you as a male believer, you have to be sexually confused. That's what this whole porn. That's what the porn industry is all about. That's what the corporate world is about. That's why that's what gangster is all about. All of that is invested to keep you sexually confused. Because once you're sexually confused, you can't produce a better energetic flow, which is healthy finances. And without healthy finances, there's no way you can escape this monetary grip of the world over you. And if you can't do that, you can't be delivered and you can't be prosperous on the earth as God intended for you to be. So, unlearn sexual confusion by forfeiting the fake promises that the world has given to you. So give up finding the right woman or whatever. All of that are scams by the world. Focus on modeling Christ himself. Once you do that, the prosperity will work out automatically. Yes, you will be fought against, you will be retaliated. The system will demand the right to rape you still, but you'll overcome it. You'll overcome, you'll thrive, and we'll all will be far better off. And we all praise God for it. Can I hear an amen from you?
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Hold on. Let me go to the live chat to see if someone asks a question here. If man is damaged by feminist mom, what then? This is the good news about men. No matter how much you traumatize a man, he's still a man. Put him in a situation where his manhood is triggered and the man will appear. You can feminize a boy, put makeup on him, put him wear a dress, put him walk like a woman, which he can't do. You can convince him that he's good. That you can convince him all types of BS. Put him in a situation where his manhood is triggered to invest, and he'll invest. Sooner or later, he'll throw that dress out of the window, and he think, "What is this?" That's why they want you to be surrounded by effeminate male figures, so you think that that's the safe version, which is not. That's the good news. You can't hide the man in a man. So that's why women ought to be feminine so that the men are triggered in their manhood. Because here's the thing, I don't care how much sodomite propaganda there is out there, how much they try to brainwash the youth. If you have a guy who's convinced uh, he, that he wants to bang some other dude, let a feminine woman walk in gracefully with a smile. And you'll see that suddenly he develops interest in wanting to talk to her. Or if you have a woman who says she hates men and she doesn't want anything to do with men, let a masculine brother walk in natural confidence and gladness. And suddenly, despite how bitter she feels about her earthly father and all of that, she'll want to be around that brother. So you operate in God's blueprint is very, very powerful. It has the ability to destroy any type of witchcraft and trauma bonds. That's why the
And that's
enemy.
why when you've got males that, okay,
Yes, continue, Nairon.
yeah, yeah, and that's why when you've got males that have females under control and fear, why they get very afraid when a real man shows up or a decent guy shows up, and you're thinking, where's the hatred coming from? You're not threatening anybody, but he knows that what you are can be sensed by what the female needs, because she knows. Sometimes when a person says, "Oh, you don't want a person to get used to something," because once they see it, then they won't tolerate it anymore. So that's how tyrants operate, isn't it? It's like, oh, human rights. Oh, now once they see a tiny bit of human rights, they're gonna rebel. You can't make them see that. So again, that's how cults work as well. And it happens with relationships. People who abuse their children as well. They don't want them to see any examples of a child being treated with dignity by their parents and listening to them and being rational and healthy. Yeah, continue.
Yes, that's what I want to say because when you operate in sexual health in God's blueprint, I'm telling you, when you walk into a room as a man that walks in God's blueprint, you'll see that a lot of women stop what they're doing and look around who entered in. And you think, huh? I don't smell weird. I didn't make any noise when coming in. Why is it that when I come in, people tend to notice me? That is because those people around, they haven't experienced healthy masculinity for a long time. So when the real deal comes in, their bodies are triggered because we're energy creatures, so we emit energy, and our energy affects the energy fields and bodies of others. So when you walk in your healthy masculine mission, the females there sense who entered in. If you're a woman and you are graceful in, as God designed you to be, and you enter a room, you'll have other women looking up to you, and you'll have men also wanting to come near you, not just because of sex, but they just want to be around you. Why? Because they sense something healthy. So you operating in your sexual blueprint as God designed you to be, when you do that, who's that witch? Who's that warlock? Who's the Illuminati? What can they do when you operate in God's blueprint of life? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's why they're so invested and dedicated to keep you sexually confused. That's why, because if you're not sexually confused, they can't rape you anymore. That's how it goes. So, that is why we must be grateful and happy with our weaknesses and vulnerabilities. Because the way you're tricked in sexual confusion is by you resenting your own vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Don't. Your vulnerabilities and weaknesses are designed by God so that His strength is made perfect through your weakness. The only reason why we have mortal bodies is because God wants to magnify Himself greatly at the resurrection. So even physical death, which was not part of the plan, is only tolerated as an asset for Christ. And you'll be resurrected anyway. So there is no need for you to resent your vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Embrace them, because once you embrace them, you accept fully what you are. It's by doing that you're in the truth, and it's by doing that, by being in the truth, that you're able to receive from God's supply. And when you do this, you don't need the cheap counterfeit of the world anymore.
And that's what real manhood is. Real manhood is submitting to Christ. It's not playing God, it's submitting to Christ. Because people try to become God, but all they do is they join a food chain and they realize they're not God, and then they take out the anger from that on someone that can't defend themselves. So, depending on Christ is where real manhood starts, and then real womanhood now can easily come in now, because they say, oh, that's a real man. All I need to do is just connect with that and support that. But if they don't have that, then real femininity can't grow either. So again, it's all about Christ as your example.
Yes. And that's why I've experienced this, believers, that you walk in. I'm a male believer, so I can speak from the perspective of a male believer. I can't really speak from the perspective of a female believer, unfortunately, but let me talk as a male believer. I walk in and I see people looking angry at me. And I think I've never met these people. Oh, but I can feel they're upset. What's going on? They're operating under satanic pressure, in which they are told that the system has the right to rape them. And for some reason, they are convinced this is true. So they're all energetically violated. And an energetic violation goes deeper than physical violation. I'm not saying physical violation is better, because physical violation should not happen at all. But before there's physical violation, there's energetic violation. And energetic violation affects every part of your body. If you're physically violated, there's only one part of your body that takes the slap. If you get what I'm saying. But if you're energetically violated, that rate affects all your organs and affects your mind, and it can haunt you for years. So you have people that became familiar with being raped by the system. So they're all violated, but none of them want to see it. Then you walk in. You were violated by the system, but all of that is gone, and you're completely healthy as if you were never violated at all. So when they see you, they become upset, thinking, why is this guy so happy? Why is this guy so healthy? Why is this guy so confident? Why isn't he depressed like us? And now, because they now have to face the fact that they've been violated and they don't want to go there, they're now upset with you for bringing that up. You didn't bring it up, but you operating in health will trigger their cowardice, and now they'll persecute you. So when the world turns on you to persecute you, it's not your fault. It's them not wanting to be real. Let me repeat that. It's not you, it's them not wanting to be real. Something for you to remember.
And that's what gaslighting is all about. Gaslighting is about making you think that the only type of violation is physical violation, but most violation happens spiritually. And people are constantly responding to things spiritually anyway, even though they're trying to gaslight you. Again, like he says, when you walk into a place, there's an immediate response because there is energy transfers going on.
Indeed. And here's another thing. That's why when you walk by faith, whether you're a male believer or female believer, both is the same, the Holy Spirit gives you an anointing. The anointing is like an energy machine, or an energy, you can say the energy machine it is, in your energy field that guards you, that and empowers you. That's what the anointing is. It's an automatic tension that works in your favor. This automatic tension that works like a machine, like a supercomputer that works like this. When you are transferring energy with someone, and that anointing spots that there's toxicity, there's a type of toxicity that the energetic machine will tolerate. But beyond a certain point, there's a block coming. The individual is blocked from you. So you may send individual text messages, the individual can never respond. Maybe they see your text message and they're about to respond and they're frozen. The anointing stops them, so they can't type anymore. Or they may see you in the streets, they may want to say hi to you, but the Spirit pushes them away and they suddenly walk the other way around. And you think, why is the individual avoiding me? What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. It's the Spirit, it's the anointing keeping danger out. It's also something you need to learn. And here's another thing. A lot of people pay attention to swear words, cuss words. There's no such thing as swear words and cuss words. I'm not going into that discussion now. Or maybe I should. Swear words and cuss words are just words that you're not allowed to use. And if you don't use those words, you're considered important. So people who have this need for significance then identify with restrictions on certain words. Not knowing why, they just agree with it. And then they expect you to agree with their investment. And if you do use forbidden words, they look angry at you, become upset because they feel like you violated them. No, you didn't. They allow themselves to be violated by submitting to toxic restrictions that can't be accounted for. So now they want others to join them in their victimization, in their misery, better said. It's not the words that have power, but it's the intention behind the words. So it's the energy flow behind the words. Someone can say very lovely words to you, but if they have a bitter negative intention behind the words, that negative intention will harm you. So it's the energy flow behind the words that are powerful. That's why make sure you are happy and glad with who you are in Christ, and decree and declare in that joy and happiness, and you'll see how things will work out. That's why debt collectors, always when they come, they try to frighten you, to get you in this state of fear. And you notice at the moment you don't get in the state of fear, a lot of their operations collapse. Praise the Lord. And when someone calls you on the phone and you get this shock in your energy field as if there's danger coming, don't pick up the phone. Don't. Just things I want to point out to you. Anything you want to add, Nyron?
Just the fact that it's all about conventions. Swearing again is just a convention, as money is. So it's various fictions that people enforce onto other people, and the main point is that they want you to submit to it because they don't want to question it. So it's a form of cowardice. I mean, cowardice is the foundation of all the evil that's tolerated. That's why it's the largest group of people going to the lake of fire, as mentioned in Revelation, because they're the ones who keep the evil alive. They keep the anxiety in the atmosphere, and the demons feed off that. Without it, they would starve just like it. When you're not afraid of Pennywise the clown, it shrinks. So it's the cowards that keep the clowns alive, because that's what the demons really are anyway.
Indeed. So, just want something I wanted to say. Today, when I was at work, I got a phone call. I picked it, not related to work, but just my mobile phone went off. It was during a break when I was working. And during the break, when a phone rang, I saw it was a number from Amsterdam. It seemed like a familiar number, so I picked it up and said, hello? Hello, and the individual just put down the phone. I was thinking, okay, why do you call me when I respond? Why do you call me? I pick up the phone, you don't respond. I didn't feel any danger or anything at all. Now, I just let it go. Now, sometimes those are just scam artists that try to trick you to call back the number just so that you will lose money. But sometimes it can be that the individual operates in darkness, and by them being in contact with you, who walks in the light, there is a disruption going at their side. They don't dare to talk anymore. They just hang up. Sometimes it happens. Don't take it personally. So, again, I'm going to wrap this up. Finances are an extension of your sexuality as a spirit being. That's why the world wants to control your sexuality. Because if you operate in God's sexual blueprint, you'll be invincible because you'll be relying on His strength. Yes, your weaknesses and vulnerabilities are part of your sexuality as God designed you. Embrace them, walk God's blueprints, and hey, you're very powerful. You're more powerful than you realize. That's why the world wants you out of your natural sexuality. They want you to be sexually confused so that you will energize this food chain of demons. So, to be delivered from financial curses, walk in God's sexual blueprint for you, decree and declare in line with Christ, develop circular economies with other believers, and you'll see things will work out for the better. Yes, you will be attacked, you will be assaulted, but in Christ you'll overcome. This live stream has been 2 hours, almost 2.5 hours. It's quite long, so I'm going to wrap it up. For those who want to watch videos by Near Here, he has a YouTube channel. You can check that one out. And I might do more dual live streams with more believers in the future. Just keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace. Anything you want to add, Nairon?